and that was a lot down to the aerodynamic testing restrictions, which we'll talk about a bit more when we get back down to Red Bull. But the team that I'd like to really take a look at as we get interrupted there by the Mercedes of George Russell going past. He's very, very keen to get out in that new black Mercedes. I think it looks great in black. We're still all waiting down here. You can see what I was about to talk about. The Aston Martin still has not returned to the pit lane. And this is not just holding up Aston Martin's test program. They've still got work to do on that car. This is holding up every team in the pit lane. They're losing really important running time. And you can see what Aston Martin are planning to do. They've got these black screens out in the pit lane. Now, you're not allowed to do this unless there's a major technical issue with your car. So what they're going to do is they'll roll those screens out into the pit lane. The recovery truck's going to come in and drop off the car behind those screens and try and stop all of us, people at home, people in the pit lane, having a good look at it. But we can actually have a bit of a walk around because you can see the driver of the car, Felipe Drogovic, is actually still, jump back here through here, Ed, as everybody's pouring out down the pit lane now. And you can come here and you can see Felipe Drogovic is just down there having a look and waiting for his stricken car to come back. Well, everybody else is waiting for that car to come back as well. If you look down the other end of the pit lane, we've got Alfa Romeo, we've got the back end of, that must be one of the Ferraris, you've got the Mercedes in the front of the line. They've all got the aerodynamic testing brakes on. The Ferrari ones, particularly behind the front wheels, are something quite amazing. Now there's activity down at Aston Martin, and they're putting away the screens and look, I think we need to look down the end of the pit lane here, Ed, because all of the crew from Aston Martin are running off down to the end of the pit lane. So I think the sensible thing to do is follow them and let commentary take over, and then we'll pick up back when we know what's going on with Aston Martin as the session's about to get back going. So guys, in the box, back to you.
Okay, we are going to get a green light down at the end of the pit lane. Sam is sprinting to go and have a look at that Aston Martin, but we are heading to Laura Winter, who has Kevin Magnussen with her down in the paddock.
I do indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Alex Jakes. Kevin, welcome. 2023 season has begun. Cars are on track. That's a familiar sound out there, isn't it? How are you? How was your off season, and how are you feeling ahead of these 3 days of testing?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. It's it's always exciting time this to get all the cars out on track together and get a first glimpse of what the performance and sort of the competitive order is going to be like. It's always difficult to read too much into it, but you try and it's exciting.
And do you feel refreshed coming into this season? Obviously, last season for you, you had a really difficult, strange build-up. You were thrown straight in, weren't you, at the very last minute, and then had a brilliant start to the season as well. This season, you've very much known this is where you're going to be.
Yeah, exactly. So I've had a proper off-season where you have your training routine and you prepare for the season. Basically when last season ended, I had a bit of a holiday and then got straight into like this training routine, which is super important for a season like this, to come into it fully prepared and as fit as you can be. So that's a very different start than the one I had last year.
Let's talk about this season. What are your hopes? Firstly, for the 3 days of testing here, how do you feel this Haas car is going to perform? And what are your hopes for the
Told you the tyres. We'll tell you all the drivers competing, but we want to get back downstairs to Sam, who has ventured to have a look at that Aston Martin.
These Aston Martin mechanics are quite fit. They're pushing a very heavy Formula One car, some of the heaviest ever. And we talked about the weight limits. It's come down a couple of kilos, and I'll talk about power unit weights in a minute. But this is the back end of the Aston Martin, and I'm struggling to keep up with the mechanics here because they're going at such a lick. They really don't want us to have a good look at this car. Unfortunately, we've got cameras when we're walking down the pit lane, and you can see those big aerodynamic, well, we call them aero rakes, but these big sensor arrays behind the rear wheels and the diffuser of the new Aston Martin. So they were running an experiment to see what was going on at the back end of the car. That experiment clearly wasn't a great success because the car stopped moving. Nothing to do with those sensor parts down here, which you can see quite clearly. Coming out a close look, you can have a nice look at those different arrays. Come on, quick close look again. They won't mind everybody's got these. And you can have a nice look at those different probes sticking out. That'll tell you the airspeed or the air pressure behind the front wheel. We can get a good look at the whole car now. And clearly nothing obviously wrong with the green machine. But the car is not working. And that's why you come testing, to find out exactly what goes wrong. But there was a lot of confusion about where the car was going to get dropped off. Pit in was where the mechanics ran to initially, and where we ran to, where we were a bit out of breath. And then it came a bit at pit out, so we wanted to run all the way back down the pit lane to find out exactly what was going on. Clearly a radio message went out amongst the Aston Martin mechanics that actually, don't need to cover the car up, guys, it's not so secret anymore. As soon as you get to pits, those big screens have been taken away. So maybe the problem isn't as serious as people expected. Back to you guys upstairs.
Thank you, Sam Collins, up and down the pit lane to bring us the update on the Aston Martin, which brought out our only red flag of testing so far, as we get another super slow-mo of what Ferrari looks like in 2023.
It's fascinating to see how Ferrari and Mercedes has ostensibly stuck with the designs that they ran last year and haven't been sucked into trying to ape the Red Bull. Our top three teams in the sport very much sticking to their guns with what they brought to the table. Even Mercedes, who we know struggled with that car so much last year. As we look at the Alpine, Anthony Davidson saying this morning he expects them to spring something of a surprise. But one of the most noticeable changes on that car, very, very flat nose, but changes all around it. One of the only teams to come in under the weight limit this year, and already
and shouting about it as well.
Well, they're shouting about a lot.
Very proud of that down there.
Yeah, and a very aggressive upgrade strategy already in place for Alpine. Really, I think everybody looking at this team as the one to watch at the start of this year. Maybe punching up towards the top three, but certainly to be moving with them.
That's their aim, isn't it? To be closer to the top three than those behind, which is a big step. Even though they were fourth in the constructors, they were in a battle with McLaren. There was Aston Martin gathering a lot of pace at the end of last season, and they're another team expected to be a threat in the midfield. But Alpine have come in with pretty high hopes, and getting down to the weight limit is such a big thing. It was one of the main deciding factors in the midfield pecking order at the start of last year. Alfa Romeo flew out of the blocks. Valtteri Bottas scoring good points, Zhou looking decent straight away, because they designed a car that was down to weight limit, and they were, I think, the only team that managed to do that this time last year. Everyone has had a year to try and get that down. The weight limit, as I said, has come down another couple of kilos. If you can get below the weight limit, you can start to play around with weight distribution as well, which can help not only your setup, but your tyre life, and bring in more performance. So there is still a quest for the weight, which doesn't come to the driver. The driver is now at a set weight with their seat, so they don't need to go on starvation over Christmas. It's down to just getting it out in the car. A little switch for Verstappen.
And that battle between Alpine and McLaren last year was so much closer than I think it deserved to be. And all of that really came down to the unreliability of the Renault Alpine power unit in the back of that car, because their upgrade strategy was one of the most aggressive in the field, and almost every upgrade hit the numbers, did exactly what they thought it was going to do, pulled in the advance and the pace potential that they had hoped that it would. If they can do the same thing this year and make that work under the budget cap as they did last year, they could be, I'm not going to say they're going to be up there fighting with the top three, but they could do really well.
Remember this time last year,
Alpine turned up. It was actually the shakedown in Barcelona, and they were in a really poor state. Couldn't run DRS for the whole time. We're waiting on parts to even run telemetry on the car. Another lock-up from Hulkenberg.
And they got here and parts of the car started flying off.
Yeah, and it was a really tough start for them, and it seemed like they were going to be sort of lower end of the midfield, developed really well, had plenty of power unit DNFs. Alonso had a lot of bad luck last year, and has left, but they still managed to get fourth in the constructors. So that is the momentum that they're coming to this season with. And again, it's evolution, not revolution. They can take the learnings from last year, make some tweaks, and come up with a new car with the same design logic. And that's why they're going to be hoping to be clear of the midfield.
Just want to illustrate the scale of the task that they face, though, the team based at Enstone in the UK. 173 points last year in the constructors to finish fourth. They are chasing Mercedes, who had 515 on their worst season in a decade.
That's the scale about another 200 points.
Yeah, that is a huge task. I don't think they're expecting. They're just looking to close the gap, aren't they? But that gives you an idea of how much it takes to bolt out of the midfield.
But it's about 200 points to get closer to Mercedes than McLaren. That's
their aim. That's their stated aim.
Yeah.
That's the objective that they were talking about at the launch, to get closer to Mercedes than the team that is in fifth.
So actually, it seems like a pretty negative aim, doesn't it, on the face of it? The team that finished fourth just wants to be closer to third than they were last year. But it's actually a really big aim to take another about 200 points. It's a lot of points. They lost quite a few with DNFs last year. They will hope that that's not the case. The reliability can be improved on in the power units. That's another big area that Ferrari are going to be hoping to be more competitive this season. So between Ferrari and Alpine, you've probably got maybe the two best gainers in terms of reliability, thus performance on the power unit.
If you're taking the points, though, if you're hoping to score 100 extra points, those 100 extra points have got to come from somewhere, and that would have to be one of those top three teams. So it's not just about getting closer to that 500 of Mercedes, but of reducing Mercedes from 500 down to closer to 400. And it all balances out.
It's what we need, really, and it's what I'm most hoping for this season. I've got a couple of hopes this year. Number one,
We all have our reasons why we are on this track. Oh, we all have our burdens, yeah, but we just keep on fighting and we never look back. Here we go, 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 let us heal and grow. You won't be alone, we're unstoppable. Don't be afraid to show what we're going for. This is what we know. Here we come back to life, still breathing, standing up, everybody's gonna see it. Oh, all you need to know is that we're holding on. Even if we fall, we will rise up and we follow the path that we believe in. No, we're not gonna stop until we reach it. Oh, all you need to know is that we're holding on. We rise up from the dust and claim our throne. We rise up from the dust and claim our throne. We rise up from the dust and claim our throne. Empty hearts and neon lights. They're playing with my mind. Gotta get out of here tonight. Oh, I wanna run off and fly. And I'll tell myself it's fine to be alone. Just to find somewhere that finally feels like home. Oh, oh, oh. I hate all this overthinking. Oh, 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 oh. The more I swim, the more I'm sinking. Take me to a world of silver. No more heartbreaks, tears, painkillers. Take me somewhere unfamiliar. Bring me back to where we started out. Get me out of now. To where we started out. Get me out of now. To where we started out. La 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 la. Oh, oh. Get me out of broken hearts and stubborn fights. Turning truth to lies. Gotta get out, stop wasting time. Yeah, I wanna run off and fly. And I'll tell myself it's fine to be alone. Just to find somewhere that finally feels like home. Oh, oh, oh. I hate all this overthinking. Oh, 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 oh. The more I swim, the more I'm sinking. Take me to a world of silver. No more heartbreaks, tears, painkillers. Take me somewhere unfamiliar. Bring me back to where we started out. Get me out of now. To where we started out. Get me out of now. To where we started out.
Performance to be gained when you're fixing reliability. That's one of the big changes in Mercedes, isn't it? It's the race suspension. Huge change to all the teams on the part of the car that we can't see, which is what we all want to see, which is if you could flick the car upside down and hit the tunnel on the floor. That's what we all want to see. That is where the performance comes from. And that's why Mercedes have said they're sticking with the 0 point, because ultimately they don't see it as that much of a performance differentiator. Sainz goes for the top on a 133.76
7. Getting that rear suspension travel sorted to make the floor work far better than it did.
And it's about fronting the car as well, because that's where you're getting the airflow over the front, which then gets directed ideally to the either the sides or underneath the floor. And the Ferrari there with the floaters on the front suspension is becoming a more and more crucial element to just turning
To the sea for a getaway, car top down and we're driving just to see. I'm moving away to the sea.
into the Venturi tunnels
Moving
underneath,
away,
where
can't you
you're getting
see?
the ground effect. So
Sand in your feet, feel the breeze in the summertime. Stars in the sky, one dime for the first time. Moving away to the sea.
and
Moving away, can't you see? Heading by the ocean, it's a favorite potion. Come on, baby, let me tell you one time that our days are never ending.
there's a big lump in the track.
Days are
You see
never ending.
bigger this
Come on, baby, let me tell you one time that our fire gotta love it till you never break apart. Moving away to the sea.
So it's right at the end of the straight, maximum downforce on the car, and just crashing over it. But I think that should be okay. Just a bit of a jolt in the back. Interesting that we've only had 8 laps out of the Williams so far. 6.
over and sending it soon.
It's off your seat, drop your hands to the beat. Got your champagne glass tonight. We toast to freedom in the Caribbean.
11 laps to come, so it's 18 for Manchester, it's 30.
Smoke, smoke, smoke. Fire up, let our lanterns make the night sky red.
One win in Brazil, delivered
Night sky red.
George Russell last year.
By the ocean, it's our favorite potion. Come on, baby, let me tell you one time that our days are never ending. Days are never ending. Come on, baby, let me tell you one time that our fire gotta love it till you never break apart. Moving away to the sea. Moving away, can't you see? There won't be one more time, so we gonna do this tonight. There won't be one more time, so we gonna do this tonight. There won't be one more time, so we gonna do this tonight. There won't be one more time, so we gonna do this tonight. Can you hear, can you hear, can you hear my voice? Coming through, coming through, coming through the noise. I'm floating through outer space. I'm lost and I can't find a way. Oh, all the lights going dark and my hopes destroyed. Help me. Is anybody there? Save me. I'm running out of air.